Two ancient cultures, two democracies, both reaching independence at about the same time. Their relationship didn't necessarily start well, but now
the sky's the limit.
What has developed into a full-on love affair started without any roses. India fiercely rejected the notion of recognizing Israel when it was established back in 1948. It took heavy diplomatic pressure to reach recognition 2 years later, but even then there was no exchange of ambassadors. Yet even way back when, Israeli leaders acknowledged the significance of relations. The first Israeli Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, was even quoted as saying that India's recognition of Israel was only second in its importance to that of the United States.
I was pleasantly surprised to learn that Mahatma Gandhi is the only world leader whose photograph had been kept by former Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion in his desert house.
Long years have passed and geopolitical events, most notably the fall of the Soviet Union and India's quest for new alliances, changed the situation. It was, however, only in 1992 when India announced an upgrade, full diplomatic relations with Israel.
I think if today India has become self-sufficient in food production, it is largely because the inspiration was provided to us by Israel in the early 90s.
And indeed, ever since, mutual visits and increasingly tight cooperation have been the bread and butter of relations.
You very rightly said that we are two vibrant democracies. So today, the two foreign ministers of these vibrant democracies are meeting. Welcome here.
Thank you.
Another major shift, much in evidence, took place when Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi took office. Relations with Israel reached a whole new level.
In the 70 years of the country's existence, no Indian Prime Minister has ever visited, and this is further expression of the state of Israel's military, economic, and diplomatic strength.
A special bond between Modi and Netanyahu also grew, something Netanyahu mentions quite often. The Indian Prime Minister even paid special tribute to Netanyahu, congratulating him on his re-election on Twitter in Hebrew. Marking 25 years of relations, Modi is arriving in Israel on a much-anticipated historic visit. Ahead of this trip, the Israeli government approved a row of economic and civil measures. In recent years, India also changed its voting patterns in international forums. It has traditionally voted automatically with the Arab bloc and the non-aligned nations, but now is choosing to abstain in many Israel-related votes. In this respect, even though Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas visited India earlier this year, Modi is not expected to visit Ramallah, an atypical decision for a visiting political leader. Yet diplomacy is not walking alone, but rather hand in hand with economy.
Unfortunately, we haven't yet reached the full potential of the relation. There is very good cooperation on the security military side, but we have another side also to develop relation in agriculture, in medical, in IT, in plenty of other areas where we are just beginning the relation.
Long decades after, it seems Ben-Gurion was right. In about a decade, India is expected to outdo China and become the world's largest populated nation.
And thanks to Eli Hohenberg for that report. Let's now bring in Eylon Levy from Tel Aviv. Eylon, thanks for being with us as always. Eylon, it's a big trip. What is Israel doing to prepare for Modi's visit?
Israel is really pulling out all the stops for Narendra Modi's visit, treating him as if he were the head of state of a major nation, not just prime minister. When Modi arrives at Ben Gurion Airport, he'll be greeted by a full state ceremony at the airport, the sort of visit President Trump was greeted to a few weeks ago when he came to visit in Israel. And indeed, apparently he's going to be escorted for most of his visit by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Again, the sort of honor that's normally accorded only to the heads of states of major allies, and that's a sign really of the importance that Israel is attributing to the visit by Narendra Modi. It sees it really relations with India like relations with China as an example of how Israel is expanding its diplomatic relations and trying to leverage its advantages in technology and other forms of expertise to try to broaden its diplomatic relations and convert that into actual tangible diplomatic progress.
So, Eylon, the red carpet treatment for Modi, in terms of topics on the agenda, what's expected for the talks between Netanyahu and Modi?
Well, they have a lot to discuss. They're certainly going to discuss counter-terror cooperation between Israel and India. You'll remember the horrific terror attacks that took place in Mumbai several years ago. In fact, Narendra Modi will visit the son of the Chabad rabbis who were killed in Mumbai. They're also going to be discussing technology cooperation. There are 7 cooperation agreements that are going to be signed, and this visit comes off the back of India granting a $2 billion defense contract to Israeli defense industries for surface-to-air missiles. Look, what Israel's trying to do, however, is to convert the expertise it gives India in counter-terror and technology into concrete diplomatic advantage. This is something that the Prime Minister has said many times before in his speeches at the UN, that Israel is part of the solution for many developing countries when it comes to confronting the challenges that the modern world presents. And so what is certainly at the top of Israel's agenda, we know what India wants. India wants to get a technology, a know-how, etc. But what Israel wants is to be able to convert that assistance and that knowledge into actual diplomatic support. And as we saw in the report earlier, that's already bearing fruit. India recently changing its voting patterns at the United Nations, abstaining more and more, where in the past it would have automatically voted with the Arab world in favor of the Palestinians.
And Elon, you mentioned the Palestinians. No intentions of Modi of visiting with Palestinian leaders during this trip. Is that correct?
Absolutely. At the moment, it doesn't seem that Modi's schedule includes a visit to Ramallah. That's certainly very unusual. The Indian ambassador to Israel said that what India is doing, it's matured and it's dehyphenating its relationship. It's being able to deal with Israel as a country separately from its relationship with the Palestinians. And certainly as far as Israel is concerned, that's a positive development, not to be treated always as one half of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but a country that has its own diplomatic advantages to offer.
Elon, we appreciate your insight. Elon Levy, live from Tel Aviv. Thank you.